Welcome back to the Deal Vault podcast. If you're a real estate investor looking to scale, secure funding, and learn from real deals, you're in the right place. I'm Greg, and together with Nate and Sarah, we'll sit down each week and break down market trends, funding strategies, real deal stories from our investors. Now, if you're ready to unlock knowledge, relationships, and capital you need, let's open the vault. Welcome back to the Deal Vault podcast. We're here with Nate, myself, and Sarah. We're gonna have a super fun put it all together episode today, so it'll be fun. But I think first we have to warm up a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it would be fun to kick it off because I don't actually know the answer to this question with you guys. Is what was your first job? You know, you're 15 maybe years
I
old.
don't actually know Greg's first job.
You don't know that?
I feel like I know some of the jobs. I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yours was Bob Evans, right?
Yeah, Tumble Drum.
Yeah, Tumble Drum.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hold on. I know what Bob Evans is, but Tumble Drum is a laundromat?
Really good guess. No, I did not work at a laundromat. But so Tumble Drum doesn't exist anymore, but it was a place where kids' dreams came true. So if we've all been
Money
to
laundering, probably was there.
We've all, if you're listening to this, you're not a kid and you, or at least are aware of like the places that used to be in all McDonald's. I don't know that they're at many of these places anymore, but the tubes, they still have like a little section.
Those totally exist. Chick-fil-A's even got them.
Hey, go Chick-fil-A. Rocket. So Tumble Drum was, I think, just a one-off place in St. Louis where I grew up, St. Charles, that was only that. It was just this massive building full of tubes and child insanity. And they also had a kitchen. That's where I worked, was the kitchen. Me and my buddy were just like, hey, let's go get jobs. Okay. This will be fun because we all classically had like a lock in there and you would stay up all night. And it was the most miserable experience that we thought was the best ever. But I ended up working in the kitchen there and they had really great pizzas and like surprisingly good like sandwiches and stuff. I mean, it wasn't like high end by any means, but
Really chicken horn there.
it was really good. So like the chicken Caesar sandwich, bring it back. Like, let's go.
Keep in mind he ate this when he was a teenager.
Sure.
So
who knows if he went back
so
to his
me and my buddy Joe, who worked there with me, we went back when we were in college, hadn't worked there for years, went back just to get the chicken Caesar sandwich. It was really good and they were still rocking it. So that was my first job. I think I worked there for, I don't know, a year or two. And at the time, I want to say I was making $5.65 an hour, solid, to really not know what I was doing, but I made a boatload of pizzas and stuff like that. So
Nice.
way cool.
My first job, so the day I got my driver's license, my parents were like, all right, so the first place you're going to drive on your own is to go apply for jobs. So I drove to Hy-Vee, filled out a paper application there, and never heard from them. But that's okay because right after Hy-Vee, I drove to Forum 8 Theater in Columbia, Missouri. And so worked at the movies with a similar like button-up short sleeve shirt like this, but all white.
Okay.
Tucked into black dress pants,
Yeah, no doubt.
a red vest,
I was gonna say that they give you like a little
and a bow tie.
Nice.
And it's AMC Wehrenberg
It's like
Independent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it still exist?
Yeah. Oh, it does. Yeah.
It's there
Yeah.
still?
The Forum 8 is still there.
Okay. Were
So-
you like concessions or did you clean out the theater?
Everything.
Did it all.
Yeah.
He did it all.
So, I mean, it took some time to work up to concessions. You got to start out with the,
Cleaning up the
lower on the
donor
totem pole.
concessions.
100%. And then doing cell phone checks on people because cell phones were like
Get 'em.
newly emerging.
You
And
guys
as
were standing there with like the flashlight.
I wouldn't stand in there with a flashlight, but like, so obviously you stand in the back of a movie theater, you can see people who are on their phones, and
Yeah.
people were, I guess people are probably equally annoyed by it now if you're on your phone,
Yeah.
but it's a little more common.
Yeah.
Whereas like then it was like, I don't even own a cell phone. You need to get off yours.
Yeah.
And so it was my job
job.
to go and
Be the jerk.
Take a surefire 80,000 lumen light and blast it in their face.
be like, hey, get off your phone.
That's what you did, right? It's just
Yeah.
bam.
And so I saw like I saw a lot of movies in like 10-minute increments where I would just stand in the back, watch a little bit of the movie, and then move on to the next theater. So that was 2006, and I think I did crest the $6 mark on my hourly wage.
Nice.
Only because Missouri had just recently.
They forced it. Yeah, 565 solid.
Yeah.
Very good. Bob Evans.
Oh, and then I moved on to
Wait.
Hollister.
Oh.
Ooh, very way cool.
Probably after
Did
8
they
to 12 months or something.
did they pick you out at the movie theater and
They're like, that's the guy.
you want to work at Hollister?
Give me that guy.
Gotta drop the cummerbund.
Yeah.
But then you made it.
Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I liked waitressing but started at Bob Evans, so that was a little bit different environment. You were getting like
Getting a little
$1
quick.
tips, like some pennies, like they're just kind of pulling stuff out of the bottom of their purses, but lots of gravy. I remember that. I felt like there was like, what kind of gravy do you want? How do you want your eggs cooked? So I learned all of that. And yeah, I like waitressing. So
Bob Evans. Is that still around?
I have no idea.
There's a few of them.
There's-
Okay.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, but
By the way, my family would mock me for my newly gained skills at the movie theater. And anytime we did family movie night, they said, "Oh, can you make the popcorn? It's always so good when you make it." It's like, so I was the one that went upstairs and did the microwave popcorn because, yeah.
Good deal. We could go on all day, of course, on this. And then nobody will listen to anything because we're not that interesting. But probably a couple people would be interested in hearing about the full BRRRR process. Now that we're warmed up now, we can cool it off with a good BRRRR story. This is like the golden goose of real estate investing, seemingly. Anybody can do it. Like, this is what most people are trying to do. I mean, there's flippers that are just trying to make money, like big chunks of money by rehabbing and selling. That's fine. There are like turnkey investors where they just buy it and they're just looking to sink money into a property. Frankly, that's kind of our jam. Um, but in our perspective, I mean, if we had the time and the bandwidth to do it, doing a full BRRRR for even that
For
same
sure.
property would be the way to go. Because it's just a really powerful model. And what it does is it ties together that rehab and long-term hold of a property, and it makes your dollar kind of get rinsed and able to be repeated. So I think we can talk about that today, make it somewhat interesting, since we're in the middle of this transaction every day.
Yeah.
I mean, a ton of these. So I want to say this is a provable fact, just like 90% of the stats on the internet are true, or made up,
Including
including this one. I'm going to say 75% of the loans that we do are at least one step of the BRRRR process
either the acquisition and rehab loan or
or
the
refi,
refi out. Sure.
which we call the takeout loan.
Yeah.
75%. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. There's plenty of great turnkey properties that we transact on out there, and somebody's just purchasing it outright, kind of similar to how you all have done, how we did. But yeah, I think that we get to be a part of the BRRRR process for a lot of investors, whether they are borrowing their rehab funds or doing it all cash or using, that local hard money lender, as I, tell folks, if you've got a sweetheart deal, locally there, do that. And I think that is generally the, experience that we have with, our investor clients. And it's just because, just like you said, it's a lower upfront investment as far as the actual cash, but certainly a higher upfront investment in
Time and effort.
a little bit more stress as far as managing it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it. We should probably define what BRRRR is in a second, but like I look at it as like, what resource do you have more of? Like that's what you can put in. Like the bandwidth and time is like that's very fleeting for us. So then okay, we just put money in, sink it in. Fine. Is that the most efficient use of the money? Probably not, because the BRRRR is hyper efficient at that. but that's not the resource that we have most readily available. So
Yeah.
we can talk about that. But BRRRR, what's that stand for? I know you're not involved on a day-to-day basis. Can you?
Buy, rehab, rent, refinance. I feel like there's one more R in there.
There is, because it's BRRRR.
Or B plus 4 R's.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I know. There's
It's
one.
really complicated. Repeat.
Oh yeah,
Start over.
repeat. Okay.
So buy, renovate, or rehab.
Missing one R in there.
Yeah.
I feel like I got the more important ones, but I mean, yeah, repeat. Yeah, you do want to.
Yeah, it's not
Do it again.
buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and stop. It's repeat, which so kind of goes without saying, which is why it's easy to forget the last one, but it's you're definitely going to want to do it again because it is the golden goose. So buy. What does that look like? We'll do some like real dumb simple math because we don't have anything to write on, and people are listening to this in their car, or whatever. On the buy side, what does this look like? And I think the big thing we can talk about is like roughly X dollars invested, and we can take that X dollar invested and show what's left over in the transaction when it's all done and you're ready to do the last R. Like, what do you got? I think it's kind of that's the story of BRRRR.
Sure.
I think so. What does it look like on the BR side?
Yeah. So to buy and rehab, obviously there's essentially 3 most efficient ways to go about that. And I say most efficient as far as like cheapest way to do it with your money. And when I say cheapest, I mean the least costly to borrow money, right? The least costly way to do it is do it all with your own cash. So purchase and rehab that property all with your own money. And if you have the opportunity to do that, great. It does tie up all of your cash and bolts it to the walls, as we like to say, until you can refinance and pull all your money back out. The next, probably least costly way to do it would be somebody local who's just lending you money, from their 401k or their own little,
Sweetheart deal,
pot of money.
your buddy or whatever, or your doctor or something like that, which we've talked about when we talked about like rehab loans in general. I think we had a dedicated episode to that.
Sure.
So go check that one out. Give us a listen and a like probably. So you could do that, or I guess the other option is
The other
your
option where
typical-
you're using hard money with the types of programs that we work with every single day. And the first of the 2 times that you would work with our team, where you're able to put down as little as 10% on your purchase, sometimes regardless of investor experience. Sometimes, investors who have no experience whatsoever can still
go get the 90.
only get, 90% of their purchase price finance. So you put 10 down, and then 100% of your rehab budget getting held in escrow.
So on the front end, the buy and renovate, that's non-negotiable. Like if you're going to play the BRRRR game, you got to do those. But the way that you purchase it from a financing standpoint is totally negotiable. Like, hey, do it all cash, local guy that's got extra money, or a rehab loan. All of those things, do what best suits you.
Yeah.
Let's just talk the private money, hard money, rehab loan, whatever you want to call it. Let's use real dumb simple math. $100,000 purchase, $25,000 in rehab. If I've got that 90% loan to purchase price, I've got, because easy math, $10,000 into this transaction. Maybe we'll set aside closing costs for this conversation and holding costs. We can kind of add those back in maybe at the end and just say, hey, this would need to be accounted for. But just to illustrate the point, to buy this property, I need $10,000 plus closing costs. So don't feel as though, we always recommend, hey, I want to go buy a piece of real estate. I only have $10,000 to my name. You're just not ready. It's liquidity preserves a lot of, helps you mitigate risk, et cetera, et cetera. Certainly to get a loan, you're going to want to have a little bit more than that. But my cash invested in this silly little scenario, $10,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to track those $10,000 as we kind of go all the way to the last R. And I want to repeat what's left over.
Sure.
Right. Cool.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that $10,000 that you invest in your $100,000 purchase, $25,000 rehab, you said?
Sure.
So then you're getting $90,000 of your purchase, 90 of the 100K financed, and then all of your rehab budget.
And so 25. So what is the loan that I've got that I need to be accountable for is $115,000.
Yeah, 115.
Okay, so I gotta remember, $115,000 I owe to somebody else.
Yeah.
But I get a whole property and I got a whole rehab budget
Yeah.
to make this thing the way that I want.
Yeah, I was just talking to an investor like recently at a conference, and she was pretty consistent with just kind of buying one property a year, two properties a year, and just buying them turnkey and kind of putting her W-2 capital into that. And, I just got talking with her as like, hey, do you have people that you have connections with that do rehab? And she was like, yeah, I actually have a contractor. And I'm like, would you consider leveraging that same amount of money and doing some rehab and finding like kind of doing the BRRRR strategy, which you want to hold these, you want to build your portfolio out, but you may be able to do two a year versus one a year because you're going to be able to use that higher leverage on the purchase and just build some equity into it with your time. And so that was just an interesting conversation for her, is just like she had all of the pieces in play to be able to do those things. She was just kind of like used to doing a turnkey and buying a house that's already at value, ready to go, with the rents being great, which is awesome. But she was at the point where she was trying to figure out, how do I grow more from where I'm at today and how to
Perfect.
shift things.
And this is how you do it,
Yeah.
right? So actually, that's perfect. Let's compare this to, so that $100,000 property that I put 25-ish into, what's that typically going to be worth afterwards? A 200-ish?
Yeah, maybe so. I would even hedge a little bit and say maybe like 175 to 185.
I mean, roughly, but no calculators, no way to write. Let's just
Sure.
say 200, and it probably costs a touch more to rehab it. But we'll stick with those simple numbers. Let's say it's worth 200,000. Let's compare. I can go buy a turnkey property, just like this investor that you talked to, buy that $200,000 property, and my down payment on that, 20% down, $200,000 is $40,000, right? Plus closing costs, probably about $50,000 into that roughly to get into that property. That money, just remember, same $200,000 properties we're about to get to, roughly similar property. I've got my $40,000. Let's just talk the down payment money. It's in the property. It's bolted to the walls for 30 years, or appreciation. You can refinance that later down the line, but it's not anytime soon. Certainly not within the first 5 years. It's
Right.
very unlikely. So that's the scenario that we're kind of competing against. Is like, can we do something better than that?
Yeah.
For that lady, it's better than that is, instead of one a year, I could do two a year. And if she's targeting, hey, I want to get out of my job, like that's twice as fast that I don't have to do the same job. And what we'll find out as we kind of put this together is I can do it with half of the amount of money in a lot of circumstances. So we're competing against $40,000 down payment, and I've got right now 10,000 in. Again, setting aside closing costs. Yay, I own this property. I'm swinging the hammer, I'm getting it going. I sink my 25-ish thousand dollars into rehabbing this property. Hey, I feel really great. I am now just about done with this. Ding ding. Hey, loan dude over at Loan Bids. Hey Nate,
Nate Lender Guy, I think
Nate
is how
Lender Guy.
most people save me in their phone.
Until they really get to know you.
Yeah.
And then it's Nate, best friend.
Yes.
But it always starts.
Which is what I am in your phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nate Lender Guy. Hey, Nate Lender Guy with Loan Birds. Something like that.
Yeah.
The paint is almost dry on my freshly renovated property. So I've bought it. I've rehabbed it. BRRRR, I'm starting my BRRRR. I'm well into it. What's my next step? I forgot. What do I do next?
Sure. So at that point, obviously, we're going to refinance. And so that's when a conversation about, in this case, this borrower has a decent cost basis, right? And so cost basis is something that a lot of lending teams will look at, where depending on how long you've owned the property and how much money you've invested in it, there may be a limit to how much you're going to be able to get a loan for. And so that's a careful consideration. Now, the nice thing is that we've got different solutions based on how long you've owned the property to make sure that when it comes time to refinance, you get your 75% cash out. But that helps drive where we go for the refinance, because it's not always this is the lender you go to for a BRRRR refinance. It's like, no, this is the lender we go to for this BRRRR refinance.
Very specific deal, this one deal.
Because it's based on not only you as the investor and, you know, maybe where your credit is and where can we get the best interest rate, but also how much money have you invested in this? What is this lender going to cap you at? Because the lender with a 6% interest rate is going to cap you at 100% of your cost basis, which in our example is $125,000. You've spent $100,000 on the purchase, 25 on the rehab. Your total cost basis is 125. But you want a loan that exceeds 100% of your cost basis. Oh, but I've only owned the property 3 months, and in order for me to get something that is beyond 100% of my cost basis, I have to own the property for 12 months. And it's like, well, how do I get more money out? How do I get my 75% cash out on my 200K property, which is 150? How do I get a 150 loan versus a 125 loan?
It makes a big difference, right?
We pivot to the lender who's a 6.125 instead of a 6%. And that's infinitely more advantageous for you because you don't have to hold the property for another 9 months. So Mr. Investor or Mrs. Investor has held the property for 90 days at that point. They've spent $125K on this property, but they want $150,000 loan amount. Great. I've got a 75% LTV option that fits that and allows you then to, let's take the 150 loan amount, subtract out your 115 that you owe because that's your loan amount.
You got to go pay off the lender.
There's 35K remaining. Does that mean I get $35,000 in cash out? Close. You have closing costs that get deducted from that as well. And so again, using easy math, let's say it's $10,000 in closing costs. Then out of the 35, you get 25 that you walk away with, right? And so then in this very golden goose scenario,
I've recouped my 10 that I put in. I got
you recouped 10 and even your closing costs that you have initially invested,
which was, let's say, roughly about the same, although I don't have to build up escrows. Escrows are not a closing cost, but they certainly feel like it. Like when you're having to do it, you're like, I mean, it's money out of pocket. But I'm building up escrows for costs in the future, long conversation.
All those third-party items are agnostic of what lending.
That's, it just is what it is. But it's still accounted for at closing. So in this whole scenario, and let's add back in those closing costs from the first loan. Let's account for that 10,000 closing cost when I'm going to do my refinance. In a very vanilla scenario, I'm kind of right at, I got my 10,000 bucks back.
Yeah.
And that's a huge win because what else do you have? You have a freshly renovated property.
Yeah.
And it cost you in this full cycle of, let's say 4 months, took you 90 days to rehab is very common. If you're slower, that's fine too. But it took me 90 days to rehab it. And then a month-ish to get that second refinance done, to get the third of 4 R's completed. And I've got my 10,000 bucks that I started with. And I have a freshly renovated property that's cash flowing $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. It depends on what your deal looks like. But my expectation for CapEx in the next 5 years is very, very low because the lender at the beginning financed the new AC unit that, oh my goodness, how many calls have we had this year? Because we bought them turnkey and like we have had a couple calls and we're actually paying out of pocket for a roof. But I don't have to do that because I fixed all that stuff. I know what the roof is because I was in control of the rehab. So I have a brand new roof if I needed it, brand new water heater if I needed it, et cetera, et cetera. I got a tenant that's paying and I got my money back from when I started. So in a 3, 4, let's say it's a slow project, 5, 6 months, 7, 8, 9 months, I can have all of those things. And it costs me at the end of the day for a vanilla scenario, how much out of pocket? Zero.
I mean, ultimately,
I got my money back.
Yeah.
Now I had to tie my money up for a little while, put it up, right?
And again, I think you said at the beginning, like there's time invested, there's more time invested. So you
No doubt
would have given more time, but you would have been able to recoup the money. So if you have the time and the bandwidth to be able to do that, then yeah, it's definitely a way to maximize your.
It's a great way to do it. So let's now back it out and compare to what this lady had been doing What you and I have done is I can still have that same 200-ish thousand dollar property. So let's anchor it at 200,000. How much did it cost me to buy it turnkey? 40 grand plus closing costs,
Yeah.
right? So maybe 50-ish. Building escrows and all that silly stuff. You got to pay the government. You got to prepay the government. So 50-ish thousand bucks. Or in this scenario, it cost me none dollars. So my return when I have a perfect BRRRR deal, like just a very vanilla deal, I didn't even get cash out. Let's not even go there. What's my return if I make even $1 in cash flow and it costs me $0 to get that? It's an infinite return. Like that's why it gets exciting. So frankly, we had one property that we bought in, and it was a VA loan. It's a great way to get started for our veterans. And that cost us basically $0 to get into it. And so every dollar that we make is infinite return. So when I do our like cash flow analysis on that property, I have to put a dollar amount on there just so I'm not dividing by zero. Like I can actually have something. And that's what BRRRR strategy does when you don't have a VA loan, or VA loan's very limited. You can only use that if you plan to live in the property. You have to be there for a full year, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to invest in real estate. You can have that same potential with infinite return, but it takes a little bit of sweat equity.
I think one thing that you guys didn't take into consideration in your conversation, and it's probably because it's not as relevant as it was a couple of years ago, but when you were talking, you went right to refinance and kind of skipped over rent.
Skip
But there's
the
a
rent.
reason I
Yeah.
think that was probably your mindset is a couple of years ago, guidelines, lender underwriting, like you had to have a rent, you had to have proof of rent in place before you could refinance. And that was kind of factored in, especially in you getting above the cost basis. But now a lot of lenders are familiar with this rapid, construction completion. We're ready to go. The value is already increased. That typically we can just, if we can show proof that, rehab has been done, here's the amount that's been completed. Oh, and it's listed for rent. A lot of times they'll allow us to proceed and just take market rent knowing that it's the reason it's not rented yet is because it was like literally the paint is still drying. And so that I think that's interesting, just like letting investors know that is, if they're holding to wait to get a rental, even just in the last 2 years, like we've been able to refinance before it was rented. So it's almost like, okay, you can rehab, refinance, then rent. Whereas before, it was definitely, which, I mean, obviously you want to get it rented as soon as possible for your personal sake,
That's right.
but for guidelines and underwriting, we can actually refinance with some of our loan products before we rent it out,
So you
which
can
is
keep
huge.
that ship moving forward. I mean,
So I
keep
think
the velocity of money moving. So I can, in a lot of scenarios, I can move on to the next transaction. And I think a lot of our lenders have figured out, like, okay, is somebody going to do all this work and refinance? And frankly, you're not making a ton of money doing the refinancing. If you wanted to make that chunk of money, you just have to sell it for profit. Like, so they're not getting a windfall when they go to do this refinance. If they're looking to, that's a risk, or that's like a red flag for the lenders. Like, their likelihood to walk away is higher there. But they're doing this refinance. They're not getting a windfall. They're just kind of getting made whole. They're not doing all that to not put a tenant in the property. And if you're showing the efforts, right, having it listed for rent, having collected a security deposit and first month's rent, they just haven't moved in yet, right? They're moving from across the way, like things have to align. A lot of lenders, not all, frankly, but a lot of lenders now have become hip to that to say, okay, this story makes sense. You just rehabbed it. I can see that. Um, and you have it listed that you've collected first month's security deposit. Let's go ahead and complete this transaction. The likelihood when you're not getting a windfall for you to just give up at that point is it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for that to be the case. So they're willing to move forward with you. Yeah. So
So I think like the biggest things if you're an investor and you have been doing turnkey and you're like, hey, this sounds really awesome. I would love to be able to do more with the same amount of money and recoup it and kind of repeat faster than just once a year. I think the things to be in consideration of are knowing your market, knowing parts of your market that, maybe other investors are buying in and renovating and values have the potential to increase, right? So you're not underwater with the ARV of like, I went over the ceiling, if you're trying to get into that is really knowing your market. And then again, having someone that can do the cosmetic work, at least on the first couple ones for you, even if
Yeah.
it's a lower rehab amount, that will help it make it so that the time spent isn't as intense, right? If you're literally going from your W-2 job and spending your evenings renovating the property, that's gonna feel a lot harder when you're just recycling your cash at the end of
Mm.
it. You're gonna want like, "Man, I feel like I need some return for all of my sweat equity there." So I think considering that, like, what are some options to use other contractors and just kind of, be available to us?
Especially for that, I'm new to this
Yeah.
thing. Like if I were to talk to this lady that you were talking to,
Speed,
it's like,
yeah.
hey, go find that like relatively light rehab. It depends on your area. Purchase prices are all over the place. Depends where you're at, but go find a deal where the rehab is less than 50% of the purchase price, preferably a little bit lower than that. You can't be 5% of the purchase price because you're not going to improve the value of the property, but I would aim for less than 50% of the purchase price is going to be a safe bet. Uh, you're going to be able to manage your contractors through
Mhm.
that, even with a few surprises. Having a little bit of liquidity on top of that for the small surprise that comes up is really smart. But I think the places that I would look for this deal is going to be in your BC class neighborhoods. It's not your A class neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That's going to be your flip. It just and the reason for that is you can improve the value of those property and you can get the after repair value up, but the cash flow from the completed transaction isn't going to justify getting all of your money back out. Now, you may look at that and say, that's just an asset that I want to own and I want to have renovated it and I want to own that equity. Uh, you're just gonna go into that saying with the understanding that I'm gonna probably leave a little bit more money in this transaction, and that's fine, but if I'm looking to repeat the transaction that we roughly described here, it could be a little bit more money, it could be a little bit less money depending on the part of the country that you're playing in, but it's whatever town you're in, it's gonna be likely in that BC class neighborhood, where you're bringing a C to a high C or a low B, and you're bringing that B to a mid-tier B. But if you're going B to A, you're that deal really either you're leaving money in, and that can be its own strategy, or just sell the thing and make the money, and now you got a bigger chunk to go play with. Congrats, like, you made a big chunk of change. Nothing wrong with that other than paying taxes, which will chew you up. But I've got some money left over to go do a BRRRR in that BC class neighborhood. Maybe I can do 2 instead of 1 at a time.
Yeah.
So, um, I think the one confusing thing that we threw out there is like cost basis and stuff like that. I think we can do a whole episode about that. There are loan limitations relative to what you spent on the property. I'll give a super silly example. Our cost basis in that scenario, which is purchase price plus money that you put into it, was 125,000 bucks. If somehow an appraiser comes out and says that property is worth 1 billion zillion dollars, it congratulations, it's still not going to make sense for the lender to give you 75% of 1 billion zillion
Also,
because
it probably won't DSCR.
it probably won't be as young. But it's gonna be anchored to some level of anchoring to that cost basis. There are percentages associated with that. This is what we do, is just kinda navigate all that
Mm.
and get the most bang for your buck, but what I can say is it's not gonna be outside of reason. You're not gonna get 75% of a million, billion, zillion when your all-in cost basis is 125,000
Darn it.
in Toledo. Like, it's just not gonna happen, but there are ways to really wring out every drop of that transaction, and if anything that Nate said was even mildly confusing, listen a bunch more. Listen to it a few more times, you'll catch some other stuff, but this is where it's good to call, "Hey, is that Nerd from Loanbirds? Like, hey, Nerd, what do we do there?" And you're gonna say, "Hey, it's Nate."
And that was
Again,
and that was all that I wanted to necessarily highlight was just that it's not a straightforward
there's some baggage that comes with it,
find a lender who does refinances,
and they're going to be the best.
and they'll
'Cause that
do the
kinda
exact
works for
same.
us. Like, we have preferred lenders, and we have a batch of lenders that, like, are gonna be our first thoughts, but there's a reason we need a batch because Well, with your blue painted property and the cash flow is this and X, Y, and Z, I got to go here. But the very next BRRRR transaction that you bring, and we're doing that refinance, we're going over here because it's, yellow painted or whatever. Paint color has nothing to do with anything, but it's some variable that will drive us to a solution, and it's pretty confusing. And that's why it's nice to have Nert from Lone Birds to be able to call and become best friends with, because you find the right loan program.
Yeah.
And you become Nate from Loan Bids, best friend in your phone, because you're really saving them a lot of money. And that's not even necessarily a plug for us, it's just a plug for BRRRR is relatively straightforward, but there's some confusing mathematics in there that are a little bit behind a veil. Happy to like show you behind that curtain, but it's still confusing, and it's good to have somebody that can navigate that with you.
Yeah, most definitely.
So
Thanks, Gerg.
awesome.
Appreciate it, man. That's good stuff. So long in the wind here. BRRRR, like, this is the golden goose. This is what people want to do. So if that was confusing, let us know what part was confusing. Maybe we can do another episode of that section, or re-listen a few times, because this is truly the golden goose of real estate. You can do this with commercial properties. From a lending perspective, it's a little bit more complicated, way less options, but the concept is yet still the same. Buy a property, renovate it, improve the value, put a tenant in there, get it refinanced, get that money back, basically, go do it again. That works across the board in real estate. It's what investors across the country are doing. They've been doing it for years, and somebody gave it a name, and so we all just use BRRRR because it makes a lot of sense. Good stuff. Looking forward to kind of breaking apart again each section of that as we need to.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to the Deal Vault. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share with another investor, and leave us a review. If you're looking for help funding your next deal, you can always holler at us at loanbids.com. We'd love to help you on that deal. Until next time, keep building, keep investing.